it cost too much, I guess, to some to reach out to me. They had to play it safe. They had to do what they, had to do, but to others it didn't matter. And those became my closer friends. And several, thought it was their business to bother me and heckle me and stand on the side of the wall when I walked down the hallway and bother me in class and throw stuff on me and stuff like that. They thought it was their business to do that. I lived my life without apologies. I don't need apologies for those things. I couldn't live if I had to have apologies for those things. I couldn't have achieved what I achieved if they had to apologize to me for what they did to me. And I live by higher standards now. I live by higher standards. It's what comes out of me that could hurt me, but what others say could never hurt me. But it wasn't a joyous time. I applied for, I tried to join clubs. Back in those days, you applied to be, you tried out and you applied to be in the clubs. And when I got to Seminole, I was looking forward to being in some of the clubs, at least one, and they all turned me down. And so I was sitting in the auditorium one day, and I was just sitting there like, well, what have you? They were going to tap for the National Honor Society. I said, big deal, I'm just sitting there. And the next thing you know, they called my name for the National Honor Society.
That's a good club.
And I was floored. I didn't have a 4.0, I had a 3.7. That was not bad, was it? But okay. But anyway, I graduated with honors, and I found the members of the National Honor Society to be non-discriminatory. They wouldn't discriminate, and they were better friends than, they had the greater minds of the school had greater morals.
Amen.
Any other questions?
Yeah, for the lady with the, you mentioned here that in 1968, some white teachers were transferred to all black schools. Did you do any research on what that was like for them or talk to any of them?
Yes, I had the privilege of interviewing Mrs. Juanita Harold, who actually was one of those teachers who was transferred from an all-black school to Oviedo, the school in Oviedo at that time. And she shared that it was a very trying experience. In fact, really frightening. She shared that as she was leaving school one day with a white teacher who she rode with to Oviedo, that when they attempted to leave the building, there were 200 Klansmen outside. They had gathered. And then she saw 10 gentlemen that were dressed in black suits and white ties. And these were agents that had been sent to protect them. And when she said when they escorted them to the car, when they got in, she noticed that the teacher she was riding with had a hammer and another tool. And she told Mrs. Harold that she was afraid that they were going to try to hurt them. And that's why she had those objects in the car. Mrs. Harold has since passed away, but it was a very moving interview with her, as it was with Mrs. Nathan at that time. Yes.
You said the police had escort you on the first day to school?
Yes.
How long afterward did the police have to stay there? Was it the first day and they were done, or was it
That's right.
over a period of time?
He just walked me to the front, and the principal and student body greeted me, and I came in, and the student body presidents accompanied me to every class the first day. And after that, I was alone. But it was good the first day. Yeah. Well, I I'd like to say something. I noticed, when talking about unitary status, I'd like to give props to my husband,
Yes.
Pastor Ronald Nathan, because he was the assistant principal at Hamilton. He was, he was the first principal where they converted Goldsboro to a magnet school. He was the one that they had to do that. He was principal, he built Bentley Elementary from the ground up, and he was there many years. And he just retired from being principal at Midway Elementary. I'm really proud of him.
Are there any other questions?
I have one about the video. Can we have it on our website? Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I thought when she asked her question of you, that she wanted to know about the white teacher who went to the black school. Did you have any information?
No, I did not interview any white teachers that were transferred to black schools.
Hey, I have a real quick question, and this is for Dr. Cody and Attorney Beeman. When 1970, I know we're kind of short on time, this is an important question. When the Justice Department was, when Seminole County was brought to the Justice Department for inequity in all of the factors of education, there were some key people in Seminole County who were instrumental in bringing that lawsuit to the federal courts. And I think this audience needs to know some of those people who were brave enough to bring those suits to the federal government.
You have to answer this.
Well, I'll just share a couple of people that I interviewed in the dissertation that I felt were key people. And one was Mr. Edward Blackshear. And another one was Mr. Stallworth as well. Horace Meade was a teacher in the district and a student, that had experienced, a lot of this. Dr. Marion Gailey was the assistant superintendent under Dr. Haggerty. Dr. Cody was also, these are people that I interviewed. Mr. Doug Stenstrom, whose Stenstrom Elementary is named after Mr. Stenstrom. He was the attorney for the school board, and obviously was someone, based on the interview with him, that really wanted to do the right thing by students. So those are just some of it.
And I would say I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Blackshear because right after 2006, he was looking for the petition that was submitted to the Department of Justice that initiated the complaint, the lawsuit. I was not able to find that document, but had an opportunity to really sit down with him and talk with him about all that had transpired over the many years. So in my experience, as far as one of those individuals knowing he signed the petition that went to the Department of Justice that then led to the policy.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Velma Williams was, played a big role in advocating for the community and making sure that the Justice Department heard all sides. I think who else? Other the folks that you named, Dr. Jenkins.
Dr. Calvin Collins, I didn't interview him, but in the dissertation, some of in the school board records, Dr. Collins was one of the ones who actually spoke out regarding the inequities that were taking place throughout the district. So even though I didn't interview him, he was in the records as one of the individuals who was taking a stand against what was happening.
And we need to thank Seminole County Public Schools. Last year, Seminole High School was the, Crooms Academy in 1926 was the last high school to be built in the city of Sanford. Seminole High School was built in 1908. There was a bit of overcrowding at Seminole High School, so they made a 9th grade center out of Millennium and built a new Millennium outside the city limits into Midway. That 9th grade center, like she said, is named the Edward Blackshear campus. And that was done last year at a school board meeting. So we need to thank Seminole County Public Schools for giving that recognition, because he is the one that really made Seminole County Public Schools and spoke up at a time when it wasn't popular to speak up and to get that done for Seminole County Public Schools. So we appreciate you giving him his roses. And Mr. Blackshear is still around. And he walks over. He likes fried fish and grits. Yes, and he's still living, I think he's 92, 93, something like that. And I think the next person that's gonna get their roses, we hope to get their roses for what they did for Seminole County Public Schools and did it without interference, Miss Ingrid Hagan. So, definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this completes our program. Thank you so very, very, very much.